everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you see my screen?
Not as yet.
What is it? Well, I have problems with internet connection, and that's why.
Yeah, not an issue.
Kind of
Just try to share your screen if we can see it. Otherwise, you can just give a talk,
Yes, I understand.
There is share screen option at the bottom of your screen, if you can see.
I know, but
Yeah.
connection.
Now, connection problem. Okay.
Doctor, you can speak if your system is not working. If your presentation is not working, you can speak. You can speak on the mic.
See if I speak. Well, I will speak to everyone. I feel sorry for my problems. Ecotourism in protected areas, a case of Podilsky Tokti National Nature Park. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres wrote that tourism can be.
Yeah, Dr. Valerii, we can see your presentation. If you can just put it in presentation mode and move your slides.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes, yeah? Yes, we can see it now, but you can just, put it in full screen mode.
No, I see.
Yeah. Or just click on the next slide, so at least we see the slides. Yes, yes. Yeah.
Tourism can be a force for good in our world, playing a part in protecting our planet and its biodiversity and celebrating commitments of human from discovering new places and cultures in connections with new people and experience. The next picture about the World Tourism Organization, UNWTO, is the United Nations agency responsible for the promotion of responsible, sustainable, and universally accessible tourism. As the leading international organization in the field of tourism, UNWTO promotes tourism as a driver of economic growth, inclusive development, and environmental sustainability, and offers leadership and support to sector advancing knowledge and tourism policies worldwide. According to the NTV definition, ecotourism refers to forms of tourism which have the following characteristics. The next. All nature-based forms of tourism in which the main motivation of the tourist is the observation and appreciation of nature as well as the traditional cultures prevailing in natural areas. It contains educational and interpretation features. It is generally but not exclusively organized by specialized tour operators or small groups. Service provider partners and destinations tend to be small, locally owned business. It minimized negative impacts upon national and social cultural environment. It supports the maintenance of natural areas, which are used as ecotourism attraction by generating economic benefits for host communities, organizations, and authorities managing natural areas with conservation purposes, providing alternative employment and income opportunities for local communities, increasing awareness towards the conservation of natural and cultural assets, both among locals and tourists. Ecotourism benefits also include ecotourism can also bring employment to the local people. Protected areas, for instance, require park rangers and staff to maintain and operate as ecologists and accommodation used by tourists. Also, the traditional culture can act as a tourist attraction and can create a source of revenue by asking payment for the showman performances. For many countries, for many countries, ecotourism is not simply a marginal activity to finance protection of the environment, but a major industry of the national economy. The increased contributions of communities to locally managed ecotourism creates viable economic opportunities, including high-level management position and reduced environment issues associated with poverty and unemployment. Because the ecotourism experience is marketed to a different lifestyle from large-scale ecotourism, the development of facilities and infrastructure does not need to conform to corporate Western tourist standards and can be much simpler and less expensive. There is a greater multiplier effect on the economy because local products, materials, and labor are used. Profits accrue locality and import leakage introduced. Ecotourism can also bring employment to the local. Protected areas, for instance, require park rangers and staff to maintain and operate the ecologies and accommodation used by tourists. Also, the traditional culture can act as a tourist attraction and can create a source of revenue by asking payment for the showing of performances. Ecotourism has become one of the fastest growing sectors of the tourism industry. One definition of ecotourism is next. The problems which are delivered by the ecotourism. Ecotourism is a practice of low impact, educational, ecologically and culturally sensitive travel and benefits as local communities and host countries. Many of the ecotourism projects are not meeting these standards. At the local level, ecotourism has become a source of conflict over control of land, resources, and tourism profits. In this case, ecotourism has harmed the environment and local people and had led to conflicts over profit distribution. Also, ecologists claim to be educationally sophisticated and environmentally concerned. They rarely understand the ecological consequences of their visit and how their day-to-day activities affect physical impacts on the environment. As one scientist observes, they rarely acknowledge how the meals they eat, the toilets they flush, the water they drink, and so on, are all parts of broad regional economic and ecological systems they are helping to reconfigure with their very activities. Ecotourism activities are in themselves issues in environmental impact because they may disturb fauna and flora. I must say that I have a historical background. I have written a lot of different books and articles in historical subjects. And that's why it was very interesting for me to see different presentations from around the world about fauna, about flora, and about the survival of animals. But I took part in different tourist projects, and I am a guide at museum, and simultaneously I am a teacher of university, but teacher in history and political sciences. But it was very interesting to me to listen everything about the animals and so on. And I wanted to tell you about the tourist locations, about our national park, because I know it very well. I started explored, but at first some definitions. Protected areas, what is this? Protected areas or conservation areas are locations which received protection because of the recognized natural, ecological, and or cultural values. There are several kinds of protected areas which vary by level of protection depending on the enable laws of each country or the regulations of the International Organization of Work. Generally speaking, though protected areas are understood to be those in which human presence, or at least the exploitation of the natural sources, is limited. In Ukraine, there are a lot of different types of protected areas, but I want to tell you about national parks because my speech, my presentation about national park of Untitled. A national park. Excuse me. This is environmental, national, cultural, and educational, historical, and cultural institution of national importance, created or preserve, produce, and effectively use national complexes and objects that have a special environment, health, historical, and cultural, scientific, and educational value. In the territory of national parks of Ukraine, there are many centers of tourism, including historical tourism, which is very familiar for me, and ecological tourism. And in particular, ecotourism, which according to the World Tourism Organization, is a journey to latterly untouched by human economic activity corners of nature. The method of ecotourism observation, study of flora and fauna, as well as any cultural values, both ancient and modern, and which are in these areas. Priority types of ecotourism in Ukraine today include hiking and health tourism, cycling and horseback riding, downhill raftings on inflatable rafts, boats, catamarans, water skiing, winter surfing, excursion to carscapes, sport hunting and fishing, paragliding, walks on balance, and so on. And this is a map of Ukraine, and you can see the map of different national parks. Our national parks, Podillia and Toltri, the region of this word is very difficult to explain. From Celtic language, Toltra is a small hill or small mountain. Podillia and Toltri is situated in the western part of the central Ukraine or eastern part of the western Ukraine, and near the border between the Ukraine and Moldova, near the one of the most important river in Ukraine, the river of Dniester, which crosses from the Carpathian Mountains to the Black Sea. Podilsky Toltri is located in Khmelnytska Oblast region, and it bordered the western oblast regions of Ukraine and central oblast. This is a picture of our river, the river of Dniester. Podilsky National Park is the largest in Europe. It crosses from the river of Dnieper to the center of our oblast. This national park is situated in Khmelnytska Oblast. It is unique national park, and there is no such parks and structures around the world. Only ecological structures of Western regions exist only in Great Britain and the United States of America. The total area of the national park is quite large, and it's always 26,000 hectares. Toltra. Toltra is not a very large mountain. Some people suppose that Toltras are not mountains, simply hills. But this is very questionable topic, and we have a lot of different discussions. Are the Toltras mountains or the hills? But on the territory of Podillia and Toltri, Park Podillia and Toltri, there are almost 160 tops, different in height, overgrown with forest and trees. Also, Toltras have a common feature. Toltra look like a rocky edge ridge. The highest of Toltras reaches 443 meters. Turtles are very rich in flora and fauna, and because near these hills there are special microclimatic conditions for the preservation of rare and relict plants and developed in the territory of this ecotourism. The largest number of relict and endemic those that did not grow anywhere else species concentrated in the park. Of these species, a lot of them were listed in the Red Book of Ukraine. 85 species are protected by the Red Book of Ukraine. Also, there are a lot of different animals which live in the National Park of Untitled, including cranes, including birds, including owls, and so on. And you can see different animals which live in this national park, including small predators, including squirrels, including otters, and so on. And this national park also is very famous for its flora. A lot of plants existed only in this part of Podilian land. Podylia is the geographical unit of Ukraine. And I want to tell you about the most important places in this national park. For example, the highlight of the Podilsky Tokri is Bakota Valley, where the remains of the old rock monastery is located. This monastery was the first stronghold of Christianity in the old Kievan Rus. Bakota Bay is located on the left bank of the river Dniester, 25 kilometers from the old town of the Kam'янets-Podilsky. There is a picturesque corner where once was the ancient city of Bakota, and today the waves of Dniester reservoir are flowing. When you turn the pointer to the rock monastery, you will see a large oak cross from its unique landscape of Kam'янets-Podilsky, Transnistria with canyons and hills, streams, and the Dniester River and its tributaries. Bakota Bay is very popular among the Ukrainian tourists. I hope that foreign tourists also visit this place. This place is very picturesque. The next interesting part of National Park of Podylia Tokri, Smotritsky Canyon, near the city of Kam'янets-Podilsky. It looks like nature has built a melting about a stone bridge, miracle for the ancient Kam'янets-Podilsky. And this canyon was formed 60 million years ago after great earthquake. Before earthquake, there was a so-called Samatian Sea. But later water disappeared, this canyon was formed. And this is one of the most interesting places around Ukraine, to my mind. Territory near the town of Kitaygot is very interesting complex sections of the Southern and Devonian deposit. It is very good place for relax, for rest, for hiking and another ecological tourist kind of tourist. And in the National Park of Podylia Tokri, there are a lot of small caves. The most well-known and important cave in this part of National Park, Atlantis Karst Cave, is situated in Khmelnytsky region of the territory of Podilsky Tokri National Park, near the small village of Zavali. Unfortunately, this cave is not studied very well. There is absence of light, there is absence of fresh air, and that's why it's not a very good place to visit for ordinary tourists. But I wanted to say that ecological tourism in Ukraine make only the first steps, because historical tourism in Ukraine is widespread among the people of our state. But ecological tourism is not well known, and only very few institutes or universities took attention to the development of ecological tourism, and that's why a lot of these cases are in very bad condition and they need reconstruction. And I want to return to our small hills or small mountains, Toftas. Karmelikova mountain is a unique part of the Tofta strand, named after Ustem Karmeluk. Ustem Karmeluk is well known in Ukraine as a Ukrainian Robin Hood. He was Ukrainian people's hero of the 19th century. He was from the one hand was a rebel, but from the another hand he was a people who helped the poor people, and he was and he is a very popular historical hero of Ukraine. Sometimes he hides in near this Karmelikova Tokyo. And four cavalries, four great brothers of the Martian era. Also, it's very interesting place for tourists. They make a picture here. They have rest. And Owl Raven, Owl, is unique work of nature. It's located in the southwestern part of Podelia. The track is so attractive that locals call it Little Switzerland. I conducted several times excursions for the groups from Australia. They also say to me that this raven is very similar to the little mountains in Switzerland. I have never been to Switzerland, but I believe that these lots of Australian tourists are right tourists. And in conclusion, I want to conclude the territory of a part of the Podilian Tofta can be used for tourist and recreational purposes throughout the year. The main possible types of tourist activities here are hiking, watercar, horse, ski, cognitive and cultural excursion, and so on. General health recreation, hiking, sports, games, skiing, excursion on the Dniester Reservoir are carried out on motor ships, delta paragliding balance trips, amateur preps, mushroom and berry picking, fishing, hunting, climatic treatment. But I must say honestly that the enough situation in this national park is not very good, and it needs reconstructions. We wanted to find new ways, new touristic programs, but we hope that the National Park of Podilian Tofta will be very well known and popular among the tourists, not only from Ukraine, but in other countries of Eastern Europe. And we look in future with great hopes and admiration. Thank you for attention. Excuse me for my troubles, the connection troubles, but that's why my video is absent.
No problem, Dr. Valerii. I think that was a really good presentation. You covered the definition of ecotourism. You also spoke about ecotourism in protected areas and also the problems associated with it. And thank you for showing us those lovely landscape of Ukraine, where all these ecotourism is happening in your country, and also some flora and fauna. Thank you so much. Well, despite all the problems, I think it went well. And I would now request